Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and I am bringing you another wedding layout today. Still working on layouts for my nephew's album, and just wanted to show you, this is going to be a fairly quick and easy one, but it does have kind of a cool trick, I guess, for making your pages a little bit lighter and making your paper go a little farther. So bear with me here. I have a couple of mats from our devotion collection. This page that says true love, ever after, is also from our devotion collection. And so are these rose embellishments right here. And then this page right here is actually from our Keep the Faith collection from a little while back. So if you don't have that, then you would probably need to get a different, just some kind of a different background page. This is the page we're going to start with, the base, but we're actually going to cut a chunk out of the base, and let me show you how we're going to do that. So I want to cut this bottom piece out, but still leave a frame around the outside so that I can use that paper. So let me go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. We're going to place our paper, and let's see, I want my arches, or they're sort of arches, to be pointed up on the page. So I'm going to, at about 4, let's see, yeah, about 4 inches, I'm going to start my cut at the 1 inch mark. How do I know how to do that? Okay, I line my paper up here at the 4 inch mark, and then you'll notice on the side of my trimmer I have this great white line right here. The white line is showing me the center of where my blade is cutting. Now, this blade is a rotating blade, so the blade doesn't just cut right there. It's not like a slide, a slide cutter that may have just a tiny 1/8 of an inch wide blade that cuts. This blade actually does cut maybe about 1/2 an inch at a time. So 1/4 of an inch on either side of that white line is actually going to cut as well. So keep that in mind when you are doing something like this, because you may not want that cut to show. It won't always show. So, you know, don't worry too much, but you do want to make sure that if you are concerned about that, that you're careful. So I'm going to, you'll notice also we have a ruler right along the edge of where our blade housing sits. All right, so those 2 rails that the blade housing sits on have a ruler guide that can help you to judge. And also you'll notice that from this white line to the edge of my blade housing is 1 inch on either side. So that helps me make a better decision as to where to start my cut, so that I'm going to have it equal on both sides of my paper. Okay, so I'm going to line my paper up against one of my bumpers right here. This is the lower bumper. And I'm going to start my cut with the edge of the housing at approximately 2 1/8. So this edge of my housing is right at the 2 1/8 mark on this ruler right here. Okay, that's where I'm going to start my cut, and where I stop it down here is going to be a comparable distance. I'll tell you the number in just a second when we get that far. So let me just make sure my paper hasn't moved. Paper has not moved. Good. Okay, so we're going to start here, and we're going to come down here, and I want my cut to stop at right about 11 1/4. So I'm going to stop my blade housing at 12 1/4. All right, so now I have a cut in the middle of my page. No, that's hard to see, but hopefully that makes it a little easier so you can see it. Now I'm going to turn my page and I'm going to line this cut up at 3/4 of an inch. So the edge of this paper is at 3/4 of an inch on this side. And that's where I'm going to start this cut. I'm going to put my marker. My white line is going to be right on or just below my cut line right here. Probably just below so that I don't go too far above it. And then I'm going to come down to the same place down here. So the edge of my housing is right at 12 1/4, which stops my blade at 11 1/4. All right, then I'm going to turn my paper, do again a 3/4 mark on this side. The edge of my paper is at 3/4. Then I'm going to come up here, find my cut line, okay, right on that white line, and line it up with the center of my blade, go just a little below it so that I'm not cutting into my side. And then again, come down here to the same distance. The edge of my blade housing is right at 12 1/4. All right, and I'm going to turn my paper one last time, line it up again at 3/4 of an inch. All right, now this one is going to be a little trickier because we want to make sure that we are not going beyond this cut mark right here. All right, so we're going to start our cut just a little below our cut line up here. So we've lined up the side marker just below there, and we're going to slide down, and we're going to stop with this white line just a little in front of where we cut. So here's my cut line, and here's my marker. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so then when we lift it up, we may have to trim this just a little to free up this center piece of paper, but it shouldn't be too much. And then we also have assured that we have not gone into our sidewall, which we want to have as a border around our page. Okay, so I'm just trimming this just the last about 1/8 of an inch so that I can free up this center paper. All right, now what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to use this as my base. I'm going to cover this opening, and then I can use this paper for matting photos. And then I have not made my page any heavier by adding more cardstock. All right, so now we're going to cut our I love you words page. Excuse me. Okay, so let me just set this frame aside here for a second. Let's measure it. So I have my measuring stuff on my desk right here, handy. So our opening is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1/4. So we're going to make this 7 1/2 by 7 1/2 by 10 3/4. Or we could even do 11. Let's do 7 1/2 by 11. That way we can make sure that it definitely covers. In fact, let's do 8 by 11. That way it's really easy to cover. So 8 by 11. We're going to open our arm up to extend our measuring space. There is really a kind of a bad glare from my lamp. I just noticed that. Okay, so we're going to measure 8 inches from the top of our page. And since this is directional paper, we want to make sure that we are cutting that correctly. so that our words are not sideways. If you've done that before, you are in good company. I'm sure every scrapbooker has probably experienced being in a hurry and cutting their paper the wrong direction. All right. So that's 11 by 8. Okay, and then this is going to be the center of our paper. And we're going to use our extra piece of this to make some frames for some photos. So let's see how big this one is. This one is just over 7 inches. It's 7 1/4. So actually that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 7 1/4 because since it is 10 1/2 this way, I can cut this page in half and allow the recipient of this album the opportunity to put 2 5x7s in here. If she doesn't want to, or he doesn't want to, then they can always put a 4x6, but at least the mats are big enough. They could put 2 5x7s if they want to. All right. So we're gonna do that. Let me set you can tell my desk is getting cluttered when I have no place to readily set my trimmer. I used to have a home, but I used the home for something else temporarily, and I have not replaced it yet. All right, so get your permanent adhesive. We're gonna put about 5 spots of adhesive right on the edge, down the long sides, and just 2 in the middle down the short sides. At least that's what I usually do. Because this adhesive is Creative Memories adhesive, it is not necessary to go all the way down. It's actually kind of wasteful, so you don't want to do that. You're already paying a significant amount of money for adhesive. You don't want to waste it. So, all right, so we're going to center this page over our opening. Try to maybe make your border that goes around the edge of the bottom and the sides as even as you possibly can. Don't worry about the top. The top's not going to be more uneven. Oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. All right, so we're going to go ahead and adhere that. You might have a little bit of adhesive showing on the back, but that's okay because you're going to eventually be putting this on a page in your album, so it's not a big deal. If you are a person who slides your pages into an album so that you can take them in and out if you choose, then you might want to do this differently and put your adhesive right along the very edge, or use the removable adhesive, because then you can just rub that off if it shows and you don't have an issue there. All right, so here we go. We're going to have our 2 5x7 mats. They're actually nearly going to cover. You can just flip those over and do them in a little bit different design. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and raise them up just a little bit higher than our base. And I'm not going to, no, I'm going to go ahead and adhere these down, overlapping in the center here. All right. I am going to go ahead and use my repositionable adhesive just so that if I change my mind, I can do that. Yet another benefit of using repositionable adhesive. All right, so we're going to go ahead and leave these about 1.5 inches or so up from the base words that say I love you. And I would actually make one just a little higher than the other as an accent. You can do either the right one or the left one, whatever makes you happy. Not a lot higher, but maybe like 1/2 inch or so higher, so that you have some definition between your photos. All right, now we're going to utilize our embellishments. So I've got several roses here, a bouquet, a couple of kind of clusters. That's the word I was looking for. It's failing to come to me. Okay, a couple of extra pieces, leaves. So let's see which ones stand out and look like they're going to be what we want on here. Also, I have my 2 mats. Now we could utilize one of these spaces for a mat and then just put another picture right here. And then do our roses alongside. Or what we could do is we could cut this mat. You'll notice the Creative Memories mats are double-sided, and usually one side is more condensed or smaller than the other side. This one goes this direction, this one goes, the other side goes horizontal, so you have a vertical and a horizontal if you choose to use that. Or you can use this horizontally, this vertically, or you could even cut this down and make it smaller, so it's more like an embellishment than a mat. I think for my purposes today, what I want to do is go ahead and cut this down and use this smaller piece here. So I'm going to just remove that one. We'll save it for another time. I'm going to grab my trimmer here and we're going to just trim this up just a little. Maybe leave about 1/8 inch of a border around the edge. Save this piece. You never know when you might need an extra piece for a mat or a journal box. Small pieces like this I tend to toss, but you know, you do what you want. It's called scrapbooking for a reason. So you keep what you think you'll use. Get rid of what you don't think you'll use. There's no sense in keeping it if it's not something that you're gonna look for and know that you've got to be able to use again. All right, so here is my cute little "and they lived happily ever after" sign. But I'm going to go ahead and get my paper trimmer, or my corner rounder, sorry, and just round the corners really quick because I think that will make this look even cuter. So we're gonna just round those. All right, there we go. Now, so I'm gonna have that kind of down here at the base. This is going to be, I think, well, I mean, it's not my album, so I'm not going to be the one organizing the pages, but I think if it were me, I would go ahead and use this as the last page. But like I said, this is not my album, so the bride and groom can do as they want. So I think I'm going to utilize that cluster of flowers and put that down here on the bottom. And then we'll go ahead and put some roses and leaves up here on the top as well. So let's see, let's do I'm not super good at arranging flowers with paper. So, excuse me, I keep having air come up too. That's not very classy, is it? Okay, let's see here. Let's add another leaf up here. We need a little bit more balance. So we've got 3 flowers with the gold foiled flower in the center, and then a couple of leaf accents off the sides. I think I'm happy with that. We've got another gold accent down here at the bottom. That's actually its own cluster with a little sign note. I think that will be sufficient. All right, so I'll get those glued down, and we're going to use some foam squares. And right now I'm working off my sheet of small little foam squares because I used all my big ones. So we'll just put ample to make sure that things don't sink. Because it's these little ones are wonderful for tiny little pieces, as you'll see when we do the roses, but they are a little bit small for supporting a large piece like this that I'm using right here. So we'll take just a few more, as you can see, quite a few, so that we make sure it doesn't sink. And don't forget about the middle. You don't want the center of that to cave in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add these also to the leaves, which you can see they fit super easy on the edges of this cluster to keep it up and looking pretty. You can even fit one. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So easy. I'll lift it up and show you as soon as I'm done putting these on. It does take a minute, so I apologize for that. This is a relatively quick page, but doing the foam squares, especially when you use the little ones, does take a minute. I'm just going to do in the center kind of a triangle of foam squares to allow that support. Okay, so let me show that to you a little bit closer. Can you see how with this embellishment there's lots of little arms, but if you put a foam square on each of those little arms, then it will keep them sticking up and looking pretty. All right, so now I'm going to peel off all the little back sides to these. There are quite a lot of them. So if you're doing an album for yourself or an album for a loved one or a friend for their wedding or their significant event, sometimes it's fun, I think, to think about them and how they might use their album. Hopes that they will look at it and enjoy it for years and years down the road. And in this case, since this is a young couple getting married, hopes that they will enjoy it, and their children maybe even will enjoy it. So that's what this is about, sharing memories with those we love. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get our happily ever after sign woven in here so that we we probably should move this one. Let's just take that one off. So one thing about foam squares is once you have them on, they're kind of tricky to get off. They don't like to come off, and that's a good thing. But it does kind of make it difficult to fix something if you put something on the wrong spot. So also don't want this one right here. It's in the wrong spot, so we're going to take this one off. And once you take them off, they're pretty much not usable again either. So that is kind of a little bit of a bummer. But here's what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna stick that in there just like so. And then we'll put it right here, right down. I'm gonna put it more in the corner actually so that my adhesive still allows for the photo. No, 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 come on. Another thing, be real careful when you put it down because they like to grab on and adhere. Might not be able to get back up once you adhered, so that's not good. Okay. Okay, so now I know that my my foam squares are actually just on the very edge of these mats that I have up here. So even if they put a 5x7 into these mats, it will still work because there is no adhesive preventing the picture from sliding in there. All right, and that's what you have to be. Sorry, I'm not even on camera. What's my problem? All right, move this up just a bit. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere leaf. And coming out like this. This leaf I'm going to wait because it's just smaller, so it doesn't require as much. I'm not going to pop up all of these flowers because doing so could cause an issue for my album so that my pages don't lay flat. And I want my pages still to lay flat, or as flat as possible. So we're going to keep the pages laying as flat as we can. Okay, so the center rows, however, will be popped up because it's a focal point. So we want that to have some definition. My tiny little myriad of foam squares. All right, go with that. I'll take the sticky off of these. Okay, here we go. All right, now we're going to put that rose just right in there so that we can still see the leaf poking out down here on the bottom. And then I'm going to put some more repositionable adhesive on this set of leaves. We're going to poke them in behind this rose. Actually, we're going to use this and lift up this back rose just a little bit so that we can put those leaves in behind it. Rather hide the leaves than hide the rose. All right, there we go. That page is done and ready to go in the album with the photos, of course. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed putting this quick page together. Needless to say, it does go a lot faster when you have bigger foam squares to work with. You don't have to put as many on, but it is a sweet page and will make a really nice addition to their wedding album. So in the meantime, between now and our next video, keep creating. We'll see you next time.